nature of HR is fundamentally changing because it's moving away from transaction processing. All these new technologies are out there, all hitting at once, whether it's machine learning algorithms, chatbot technology, and we go on and on. But what all these things do is they tend to make the doing of work so much more efficient for HR people, because it either transfers things to employees to do on their own phones and devices, or it can automatically complete a transaction because it's already seen this like a time off request a million times before.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. This is your host Neha at peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view, integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that's specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and channel that receives more than 200,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. In today's episode, we have with us Brian Sommer. For around 30 years, our guest Brian Sommer, who's the founder of Thankyou, has been an award-winning writer, technology industry analyst, and consultant to some of the largest firms in the world. He's considered one of the best, most respected business technologists in the industry. He often leads IT negotiations, software selections, and technology strategy initiatives with clients globally. He's also a frequent speaker at many technology, HR, and accounting events. So Brian, let me once again take this opportunity to welcome you, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here today.
Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
So Brian, my first question to you is, can you tell us a little bit about your book, Digital with Impact?
So that book was something that was a labor of love for the last almost 3 years. And for about 2.5 years, I went around visiting all kinds of companies that were doing some kind of digital transformation or business transformation project. And I'm sorry to report that most of what I saw were not business transformations, but business misfires, that a lot of these projects never really succeeded. I didn't want to write a downer of a book, so I kept at it until I figured out what the success factors were on projects that actually did work. And in essence, what I learned is that a lot of companies tried to either skip steps, didn't do their homework, tried to jump right into transforming, relied on bad advice from others, whatever. I mean, there was a bunch of things, but it boiled down to you got to do 4 things. You actually have to get out, do the homework, and see what is the art of the possible today. You need to then design what all these new kind of cool things that are out there, what they can do for your firm. And then you need a third thing is to reconcile them against the people, the resources, the capital, whatever that your firm actually has. And then finally, you can get on with the transformation. I just saved you the effort of having to read all that in my book, but there's a lot of solid stuff in there. Anyway, it was a tough project working that out.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure, Brian, and I'm sure that our viewers and listeners are very intrigued to just check out your book and know what's more in there. Moving on to the second question, I want to ask you your experience on advising the world's largest firms on strategy, change, process, as well as technology initiatives in these past 30 years.
I think one thing that really stands out in my mind is that people are a lot like the children I read about in a child rearing book when my kids were being born. And in that book, they commented about how a child gets really used to one parent doing certain things, another parent doing others. So if you're the parent that always takes your child on Saturday morning to their Taekwondo class, the kids get real upset when that changes. And what I learned about employees at a lot of companies is they're nothing more than older children. They get upset when things change. And in the world that we live in, with the way technology changes and business models changes and leadership changes, and even the ownership of companies is changing all the time, you're going to find that some people really have a difficult time with change. Now, the flip to that is on project after project, I always run into at least one person that suffers from an incredible case of nostalgia. They love to tell me about, but Brian, that's not the way we've always done it here. Or, Brian, this is the way my great-grandfather set things up when he founded the firm in 1907, and you get the drift. A lot of people are very comfortable in old ways, old technology, old processes, the way you might like an old pair of shoes. It's broken in, it's comfortable, but when you really look at it, you realize it's threadbare. You've worn down the heels really bad. It's all scuffed up. It looks like a mess, and it's time to get something new. If I've learned anything in all these projects, for all the technology stuff that I deal with, it's some of these people issues that really become the challenge on a project moving forward.
All right, Brian. I feel like it's very, very essential to not just think about things that have happened in the past, the things that have worked for us in the past. And while that's true, while it's true that all of that wisdom amounts to something, at the same time there are a lot of new things that also keep coming up, like you yourself said, and it's very essential to also acknowledge them. So I completely agree with what you just said. Moving on to the next question. So can you tell us a little bit about how Tech Ventures came to be founded? What propelled you to it? And I would also like to know a little about some interesting anecdotes that you might have.
Okay, so I had a long career at Accenture. I'm not even going to tell you how long I was there. I was a partner with the company out of world headquarters. And it was huge. Anyway, at some point, I think my last year there, I did 48 international round trips, and I decided with young kids, I needed a different work-life balance. So of all the crazy things I could do, I went and did a .com, and that was a real education. And if, I would tell you that it really rounded out a lot of what I needed to know, I guess, about businesses and the like, when you really go out and raise capital and do all that other stuff. I did that for a couple of years, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. It wasn't very long lived. And I decided to kind of hang up my own shingle and go do my own thing. Now, along the way, I've had the pleasure of working with some phenomenal other individuals in my own company, and we've done a lot of projects I can't even tell you about because they're secret, they're under non-disclosure and everything else. We've been pulled into antitrust issues. For 2.5 years, worked on one of the largest pieces of litigation in the application software space. Most of the time, working on, like you mentioned at the top of the interview, it's software selections, shared service projects, it's software negotiations, those kind of things. And I'm what's called buy-side analyst. I represent the buyers of technology. I'm their zealous advocate. And frankly, I think a lot of software salespeople do not like to see me on the other side of a negotiating table. Anyway, what's hard to reconcile is, well, I can be ruthless in a negotiation. I'm actually an easygoing Texan, and what a lot of people didn't know is actually a part owner of a nice ranch down in Texas, and I enjoy going there. As far as anecdotes, what can I tell you? I will say this. My job requires me to go to a zillion vendor briefings every year, with this year being the exception. I'm always flying somewhere every week, usually. And but what most people don't realize is I have to go to Las Vegas and Orlando anywhere from 12 to 20 times each year.
That is a lot.
And I really don't care for those towns. If there were two towns, I really look forward to when some vendor calls me up and says, "Hey, Brian, we've got an event going on, I don't know, Lake Como in Italy." And I'm like, I'm there, call me up to me, we got another event in Vegas. It's like, I know more about Las Vegas and the inner workings of every casino. I know exactly how to get around everywhere, every place, because I've been to them all. And the other thing is, I've been to every Disney park too, because it's a different event, and I really don't need to see them anymore either. I mean, once or twice, that's okay. 12, 15 times, no, I don't need to do that again. Anyway, what else you got? What's your next question?
So, Brian, for your experience, how does one stay grounded and prohibit themselves from becoming easily overwhelmed by the fame and the demerits that might come along with that?
I'm far from famous, let's put it that way. I know a lot of people. It's fun when somebody knows you, recognize you, or whatever. That happens from time to time on an airplane. But if you've ever had family and children, oh boy, they can humble you so fast because they know you for who you are. I'm either dad to them, or a bunch of friends of mine are very straight up with me. One of my best friends is something else, because she will call out any bad whatever behavior is stupidity on my part, just like that. And I really appreciate that kind of having that kind of person around.
Right.
By and large, I just don't get into those kind of things. I don't get into the trappings and all that. And if you guys have another big show or something down, in your part of the world, and you want me to fly there, if you want to put me up in first class on the jet, yes, I'll take it, but I don't ask for that. I'm not like a rock star that only wants brown M&Ms, candies, and only in a 5-star hotel. I don't need that. But anyway, that's just me.
Okay, fine. And to sign off, the last question that I want to ask you is, what changes do you see in the world of HR technology, and what are your personal observations about the industry?
So we're going to close on a serious point. Okay, I think what's really intriguing to me is that the nature of HR is fundamentally changing, because it's moving away from transaction processing. All these new technologies are out there, all hitting at once, whether it's machine learning algorithms, chatbot technology, and we go on and on. But what all these things do is they tend to make the doing of work so much more efficient for HR people, because it either transfers things to employees to do on their own phones and devices, or it can automatically complete a transaction because it's already seen this like a time off request 1 million times before. That said, it begs the question, what is HR supposed to be doing going forward? And the answer is they need to be building and developing the skills, the learning curriculums, and everything else for a different kind of workforce, because all those technologies that are impacting HR are impacting the rest of the organization too. And HR needs to find the people with those skills, or reskill the people that they have. And we need to see a shift of HR going from transactional to strategic. That's what we're going to get a lot more of. I know that's kind of a serious kind of point, but I'm just not the kind of HR speaker who likes to talk about, like engagement. It's not just for weddings anymore. That's not the kind of talk that I do. I do think we really need to look at how do we make HR the most strategic contributor to the company, and how can HR help the company change its business models and adapt and be as relevant as it possibly can in a more chaotic and dynamic business world. Anyway.
Brian, of course, that was very, very insightful. And I feel like this was a very interesting conversation that we just had. So again, I want to tell you that it's very nice talking to you. And I want to thank you not just for your time, but also for your wonderful insight. Thank you.